Can we ask, what sort of houses are we looking at here? And is there anywhere else that, this has been replicated in any state in Nigeria that you know? The kind of housing scheme that you want to bring
let me put it like this. Lagos we cannot continue to compare Lagos with other states in Nigeria. Lagos is a mega city. There are only 2 mega cities in our country. Now, we're talking about a state where you're having so many people coming into that you must provide for. So you don't compare yourself. We must begin to position ourselves just like the global mega cities.
A lot of people will agree with you, but the question is, housing is a general need. It doesn't matter whether you stay in Kafanchan or you stay in Lagos.
Yes.
You have to live in a house. And it's
Yes.
one thing that governments across the board promise. Even the federal government promises houses.
But you see...
So the question is, where has that been done?
That's my point.
That, you're going to be saying,
that's my point.
This was done here. We can replicate same in Lagos.
I won't compare with Nigeria because, like I said, hey, we shouldn't be comparing ourselves with, we say we want to be a true global mega city. The way you build a house in Kafanchan, where they have a lot of land, is different from the way you're going to produce houses in Lagos, where you have so many people and you have little land.
Because what we've also done, you've talked about, Jakande houses.
Yes.
You do know that only very recently, some of the Jakande houses had to be brought down.
Yes.
And rebuilt all over again.
After how many years?
That's after about 30 years.
Hasn't it worked for us?
Do people still need their houses?
No, that's my point. What government should be doing with those houses now, having gone through 30 years, is to begin to put them up again. Is to begin to say, you know what, maybe we've gone 2 floors, we can go 4 floors.
Which is what they've done.
No, I'm not.
Which is what they've done in this case. I'm aware of that because we covered that one. I think it was somewhere around...
a former Jakande.
Yes, one of
the
former...
That has gone up to 4 floors.
Just a moment, sir.
Yes.
We do know that one of the former Jakande estates was brought down, rebuilt, and I think that only very recently, the original owners of those houses were allowed back into those buildings.
Yeah.
I know that we do have clips of that because we have a correspondent covering the Lagos state government. So I don't know if you're aware of that, are you?
No, look, I know that there were some that were, you had a problem with and they had to shut down. If it's been rebuilt, maybe, but that's not the issue because all this still falls under 25,000 housing units in 16 years. So what I'm saying is that the formula can definitely not be right. You cannot be producing 25,000 housing units in 16 years and want to cope with the demand on housing in Lagos State.
What comes to mind when you talk about housing and you use the word Lagos is a truly mega city. I wonder if you have that at the back of your mind when you talk about bringing back Okada. And you even rode recently on an Okada. People would want to call that political stunt. Do we need Okadas in a mega city we're trying to build?
You need to go out of, Lagos Metropolis, go to the Alimoshos, go to Isolo, and see how, and see where the majority of our people live in Lagos, where they come from, where there's no transportation, where there are no roads. So definitely, a very straight answer, you still need Okada in Lagos.
And
so I never said...
And the state hasn't banned it in those places because we've been to so many of those places, but they say specific areas like highways and some of those business areas.
I think there are two issues. There are two issues with the Okada. The first one is how they were handled. I will say again that there were states, many states have banned Okada in some areas, but the way they were handled was very different. Even in an APC state, you had states where they banned Okada, but they brought them in and it was like, look, we'll get you taxis, for example. We can't get everybody taxis, but we can begin the process. So there's that human aspect to it as different from, you know what, you're no longer wanted here, you get lost, and we take your motorcycles, we'll crush them. There was this insensitivity, to it. That was one. Secondly, you need to engage the people. You need to engage this category of people. So that I rode on Okada was that, yes, I'm associating with them and saying, we're not going to ban Okada, but we're going to agree, we're going to sit down and agree on how we're going to work. In a way, I've never said that the expressway, but even abroad, when you do ban something, say on the expressway, there are issues that you have to raise. If you go to some streets abroad and they say there's no private vehicle allowed on this main street, but they will allow you, bearing in mind that you may need to cross from one side to the other, they would allow you right of passage to cross once you're not going along it. These are some of the things that we need to begin to look at in ensuring, because it's not so much the Okada, it's the inconvenience even on the people.
Okay, let me.
When you saw me, and that's why you saw that, my understanding with the guy who was going to carry me was, you know what, we're going to use the crash helmet. I'm not going to ride on your Okada without a crash helmet, and you're not going to ride on this Okada without you putting on a crash helmet. So we're saying it's a matter of engaging ourselves and saying we can sit down and work this together, rather than be dictatorial about it, but and have a one-sided thing.
The states did actually say they engaged them. They spoke with them about it for a while, and then they also relied on statistics, crime rates. They said, look, when they restricted their movement to certain areas, the crime rate dropped. And then I think the governor, if I remember, also did say at the time they looked at the hospital rate, the rate at which people were getting injured.
Crime rate,
it dropped.
Crime rate
when they restricted.
Would not be the issue.
No, but they said there were statistics.
The accidents, accidents, definitely. If you're moving people off the expressway, motorcycles off the expressway, of course the statistics will go down in terms of accidents. And nobody's disputing that. And that's what I'm saying, that look, we've got to sit down and say, we've got to agree that there's some areas that it's just not in your interest. I'm not going to allow, I'm not going to expect an Okada person to say he wants to be riding on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway.
But it was done.
Yeah, I'm saying.
These are things that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying.
What I do know, I know that in Lagos, this is from what I followed. I know that in Lagos there was a process. Initially, there was the helmet campaign. It was that people had to wear their helmets. It would seem that after a while it will catch on, and after a while people go back to their same old ways. Or they came up with all sorts of funny-looking helmets. You know, there was that phase, and then there was a time when the conversation actually started. We saw under the pavilion the governor or the government engaging Okada riders as to what was expected of them, and then later on we also saw, what eventually led to the restriction, the Lagos state government has called it, of this. I'm just wondering what you would do different, what you faulted in that particular process.
That's what I'm saying. The process was not right. The process was not a two-way understanding. It was a one-way understanding. That's the first thing. The second thing is that, in fact, that's the major thing, that you've got to, when you're dealing with the people, you must agree. You must understand what is happening. A situation where you say that you're working in the interest of the citizens, and the citizens do not buy in, whether you're right or wrong, they don't buy in, means that there's something wrong with the way you're selling this idea.
Do you also appreciate the fact that, when you're saying that people's lifestyles will need to change, even for their own good, it could pose some difficulty initially, and that might lead to its non-acceptance initially. And eventually, perhaps when they begin to see the gains, they see that, it was of better benefit to them than...
Well, we've run this now for what? 2 years, 3 years? I don't know. 2, 3 years? Are we getting results?
You obviously don't enter Okada all the time.
Let's move on to this next one.
I've only been stopped from... I've used Okada many times. Okay. It's only in recent times that people have said, no, we can't. No, I don't have a problem with Okada. I used the motorcycle in my university days. So
Doyin Kasumu says, what is your plan for Lagos Internal Revenue Service?
Again, you have a situation where internally generated revenue for Lagos has improved. But the burden is heavy. It's heavy because those in the tax net are few, and they seem to be carrying the burden of those that should be in the tax net. And now you have a situation where you have, so you're saying that you've got to strengthen the Inland Revenue Service in a way that you're able to broaden the tax net. That's important. You've got to broaden the tax net so that that load on the few that are there will be less. That's one. Secondly, you have a situation where you have consultants that are working in, for tax collection in Lagos State. Again, the concept of having consultants is that they come in, then there's supposed to be an intervention body to come in, to put things right, and to pull out. But in Lagos, we've had consultants that have been there for, 10, 12 years. We're wondering, are they going to be there forever, for example?
Well, you say the revenue has improved. So do you change your winning team?
No. I said, you are those who carry the tax, and I'm sure you're one of them. The burden is heavy. But it's not even about that. I'm saying in terms of a consultant, it's not about a winning team. It's that you've got to strengthen the service, the Inland Revenue Service. By now, they must be able to do the work that the consultants have supposedly put in place. The idea is not for the consultants to be there forever.
Mr. Agbaje, when you talk, I see traits of progressives in you. No. But why did you leave the progressive camp to join the PDP?
Again, that is an assumption that there is a progressive camp
an assumption?
On the other side. Oh, it's an assumption.
But you believed it then,
no,
while you were on that camp.
No, maybe I'll tell you. Again, let me talk about Lagos State. You can talk about progressive camps, you can talk about conservative camps. And the truth is, you have good conservative governments, you have good progressive governments, just like you have bad ones on both sides. If you're looking at Lagos today, Lagos State cannot be said to be a progressive government. It is a government that is more conservative than progressive. And I can roll them out and say, look, the moment you're saying that you don't have housing for the people, that is not a progressive thinking. That is conservative thinking. The moment you're banning Okadas and you don't care what happens to them, that is conservative thinking. It's not progressive thinking.
Do you think Nigeria is doing well?
Do I think Nigeria is doing well? I think Nigeria could do a lot better than it's doing. A lot better.
Well, talking politics now, they say you decry, this is from Gabriel Irene, he says you decry godfatherism in the APC, but they're asking who Bode George is to you.
Chief Bode George is a leader in the PDP, but he's definitely not a godfather to Jimi Agbaje. Definitely not. I went to the PDP myself. Chief Bode George had nothing to do with my going into the PDP.
He had nothing to do with your emerging as the candidate of the PDP?
Let's say that he supported me like other leaders supported other candidates, and there's nothing wrong in that.
Talking about election violence,
yes,
a lot has been happening that not too many people are happy with. Are you talking to your supporters to conduct themselves decently ahead of the elections?
It's very key for me. I don't want to be associated with violence. I don't believe in violence. I've always believed that you should be able to talk your way out. So for me, violence is definitely not the way forward in any way whatsoever. Maybe because growing up, I've always learned to talk myself through rather than fight my way through. So for me, violence is just not it.
In that case, then, would you just do us and everybody else a favor? Would you just look into the camera and talk to your supporters and tell them, look, even when provoked, they should maintain the peace?
Yes. Let me say very categorically that Jimi Agbaje will never support violence because somebody wants to run for office. If you want to run for office, you're supposed to run because you want to serve the people. If the people reject you, then you accept it. The way forward is not to be violent. Violence doesn't pay anybody. You may be stronger today, but somebody's going to be stronger than you tomorrow, and you just find where you'll be. It's not worth it.
Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back in just a moment, everyone. Please join us again.